Okay, good.
All right.
Please introduce yourself, give a little background.
Hi there, my name is Greg Gelford. I'm one of the owners of Florida Underwater Sports here in Sarasota. A little bit of background. Let's go back about 10 years. That's when we started the store. I came to Sarasota to buy another scuba store. The deal didn't go through. We couldn't come to terms. Looked at the area and decided that it was relatively underserved for scuba diving, so we went ahead and opened another store here.
So tell me about your business now. How did you further come into it and choosing this location? What made you want to do Sarasota?
Well, the biggest reason we wanted to come here to Sarasota was we looked at the market, and the demographics here in the market are very interesting. It's the place in the country where people retire the earliest to. A lot of families, very wealthy families, come and live here. We have a very high median income. We have a a relatively older population that lives here, although that's changing right now. And we have a lot of people with time for leisure activities. Plus, we really have 3 seasons. We have the local season, which runs May through September. We have the Christmas season, the November-December timeframe, and then we have the big spring break season, which is continuing to grow. In the 10 years that I've been here, spring break has about doubled in size.
So I just had the students read some articles and information about the demographics. What we've been reading is that the baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials are really the big market of divers. Would that be in alignment with who your clientele are?
Yes, although you're starting to see in the population of baby boomers, you're starting to see them dropping out of diving as health concerns become more of an issue for them. They're reaching that age. We're talking 60 plus generally within that population right now. So we're starting to see them leaving, but we are starting to see a large group of people in their 30s and 40s, and I'm not sure what generation that would be, that are coming to the sport with their kids in a family sport because they're looking for something to do.
So you said you've been doing this for 10 years. How long have you been involved and how long have you been diving and such?
I've been diving since 1977. That's
Okay.
a long time ago. That's when I first got certified with my family in Hawaii. And I dove on and off. I travel dove until 2000, and that's when I started working my way up to instructor. And I was working at a technology company in Seattle, a large technology company in Seattle, you can guess. And I was working on the weekends as a scuba instructor. Really enjoyed it. Gave me a reason to go diving. That's really what I came to the sport for. And then a little over 10 years ago, decided to open up my own store, and I started looking for places in the country that would work well, that needed a scuba store.
What certifications do you have, and what do you recommend for someone who's looking to get into this business?
Ooh, there's no end to the certifications that you need, and you kind of have to go into the sport knowing that. You're always learning, and you have to always learn in the sport. The minute you stagnate and you think that you're a dive god and you know what's going on is the minute that you don't add as much value as you should as an instructor for people. So I'm a course director with Patty, so I teach instructors. I'm also a technical instructor. I'm a rebreather instructor, but I'm still continuing down my path of learning. I'm a CCR cave diver. I'm a DPV cave diver. I do all of those things, not necessarily so that I can teach, but so that I can learn.
So you enjoy what you're doing?
You have to enjoy what you're doing. You have to have passion around it, because the diving portion of owning a dive center is not as big as what people think it is.
It's
right?
not the glamorous, you're not off diving all the time. And
You're not off diving all the time, and there's a lot of things that you have to maintain here in the dive center. And that sometimes means that, yeah, you're the diving instructor. It sometimes means you're an equipment specialist. It sometimes means taking people on trips. And sometimes it means that you're the janitor too, every once in a while. But you have to be a jack of all trades. And you have to start with some core or foundational training if you want to open a store like this. And you have to be an instructor. You need to know how to service gear. And you need to know things like accounting. You need to know things like minor construction. You need to know things like how to maintain service. And the key now, of course, is you have to know computer technology. And you have to understand how to apply computer technology in a retail setting.
What are the top 3 things that actually bring you the absolute joy in being a dive shop owner and instructor?
I love talking to people and meeting people, and the number one joy is divers are a community, and as a dive shop, you have to foster that. So everybody's in the community, and it doesn't matter, right? If you're a snorkeler or you're the spouse of you're a non-diving spouse of a diver, you're still within our community and you get treated like a diver. So that's the top one right there. The second one is it's a recreational industry. And that means that you can do something that you have a lot of passion for. You know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of jobs that people have that they don't have a passion for. And that's the fun part of it, is I have a great passion around diving and really working on the passion to perfect my skills or work towards the best skills I can have as a diver. And the third thing is that it's owning your own business. And once you've worked for a lot of people, like I have over the years, I've worked in government, I've worked in corporations, I have a lot more freedom and responsibility, and that's the third thing that I enjoy about it.
Okay, on the other side of the coin, what are 3 things you wish you did not have to deal with?
The industry itself, the top one is there's an issue within the industry, which is often as instructors, we're often shooting ourselves in the foot. It's sad to say, but I've seen instructors turn out students that aren't confident, competent divers. In other words, that are not growing the community. And me as a dive shop owner, you as a dive professional, you have to deal with that side of the industry. The old joke from the movie, "Do you scuba?" Right? That's what a lot of people perceive the industry as. So it's something that I don't really enjoy. Another thing I don't enjoy is it's surprising how many other dive shop owners simply see you as competition. They don't see you as building the community. And at the end of the day, you have to step back and say to yourself, well, if this student's not going to me, then they're going to an instructor that can take care of their needs, and they're going to become part of our dive community. And because we couldn't teach them, well, guess what? We're still going to include them within the community. It's not your gain is not my loss, or vice versa. It's once again, it's building the community. And then the dive shop dogs have been heard from.
Yep.
And then the final thing is you really have to be ready to always improve. And this is a double-edged sword. Always improving means you can't stop. There is no point in a dive shop, in any business, I think this is true, where you can stop and say, this place is going to magically run for the next 6 months and I'm going to be happy and hunky-dory. It just doesn't happen. You constantly have to be putting one foot in front of the other, and that means you've got to invest effort into the business to get the returns that you want back from the business. It's also what drives the passion around the business a little bit, which, and I enjoy the business side of it. So it's a good thing and a bad thing.
So you talked about competition, and do you have a relationship with your fellow dive shops? There's quite a few, like 3 that I can think of in the area.
There's really, if you go all the way within about a 60-mile radius,
okay,
there's really about 10 that we work, that I talk with. And there's only about 3 or 4 of them that are more enlightened in terms of my customer's your customer, and it's okay for them to go from here to there. If I can't meet your needs, I'm going to send you somewhere else. And there's nothing worse than having a dive shop that sells a customer X, Y, or Z, whether it's training equipment or whatever, and then they come in here and you can tell them it's not what they needed, and that is a frustrating experience. So do I work with them? Not a lot. I work much more closely with a couple of very key dive shops on the East Coast and up in the Panhandle as well, that sell the same equipment that I sell. So we work very closely together on stuff, travel, equipment, training. It's places I can go to where I know that my students are going to get taken care of and things like that.
So kind of switching gears a little bit here, all the equipment and everything that you get in, how do you make decisions on the equipment, what vendors you're going to work with?
Well, that's a hard decision. And the first and overriding rule is you never bring on a vendor unless you really need the piece of equipment. Because if you as a business start to have 15, 20, or 30 vendors, it becomes unmanageable. And your inventory costs will spiral because you're not getting the price break that you need by sticking with one vendor. It's very important in this business. Margins are very thin in scuba diving, just like any retail business. So making sure that you're focused in what you're doing and that you pick vendors that have a complete line. So we chose Scuba Pro because they have a complete line. I've been diving Scuba Pro since the 70s. It's a quality brand. Scuba Pro takes care of us, which allows us to take care of our customers. And customers today want better customer service. They're walking in, they're more educated, and they understand what's going on. And our competition really is golf and mountain biking. It's the other sports, skydiving, it's the other sports out there. Scuba diving is a relatively inexpensive sport, and I know a lot of people are going to giggle and guffaw when I say that, but when you compare it to most of the other sports out there, it is relatively inexpensive for what we do.
So we've talked a little bit about what you have an official store here, and you have employees.
Yes,
And
we do.
how many employees? Do you outsource any things like someone who works on your books, or do you do everything in-house?
We do everything that we can in-house. So let me give you a little bit of a breakdown. So the employees really exist within the store in the day-to-day operations of the store. However, the instruction is all outsourced to contract staff, which is a very normal thing here in Florida, unfortunately. I would like to see that change. I would really love to see scuba instructors become employees, but the state hasn't really made that easy to do over the years. What else do we outsource? Very seldom do I ever try to outsource things. After 8 years, we finally outsourced our federal taxes to an accountant because they're just too complex to actually sit down and do. And the number of hours that I was putting into it versus what I could pay somebody to do it didn't finally, the scales tipped the other way, and we outsourced that. You'll need, for a business like that, for a business like this, a tax accountant. You're going to need somebody that knows how to create scuba air, because that's a very critical thing. You can kill people if you don't make scuba air the right way. So we pay people to make sure that our systems are up to snuff. And then the typical thing, air conditioning, plumbing, that kind of stuff that you're going to have to outsource. Although I really recommend that you do what you can to keep everything inside and keep your costs down. It's the other side of it. Costs can spiral very quickly in this business.
What about legal structure, and do you have a lawyer on retainer in case you need anything, or?
You don't necessarily need it. The training agency that we associate with, Patty, provides most all of that support for us from a business perspective. And attorney retainer fees can get extremely expensive, extremely fast. So, like our insurance policy for the business encompasses all of that. You have to go to one of the specialized insurance companies to get dive insurance, because most insurance companies won't talk to you at all because they consider it to be too dangerous.
Even though you're a bricks and mortar store?
Correct. They will not talk to you at all.
Okay. Determining your market. How do you get market? How do you market yourself?
The biggest shift, and I mean, this is not going to be a surprise to anybody out there, but print advertising has been dead for a long time. Google is the main focus, or the main way that we're going to bring people into the store. Having a good website, having a good website and having Facebook presence and having a Twitter presence and doing Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff is secondary to Google right now. And if you watch this video in 5 years, it's probably going to be something different too. But you have to kind of roll with the punches, and part of that really is working on the business day to day and figuring out what makes sense for you to switch and spend your resources. Resources, especially marketing resources, are precious, but you do have to spend marketing resources.
Are you finding, who's handling your social media?
We do internally.
Oh, okay.
But we're fortunate in that 3 of us here come from a technology background. Very, very fortunate. So we can handle a lot of that, the in-house IT, a lot of very custom work that we can do for ourselves.
Do you find with, you said you're boomers are starting to wane a bit. Are you still marketing to them at all?
Yes, and the boomer message is an interesting one. The boomer message is a bucket list message. A lot of the boomers grew up in the Jacques Cousteau era, and they never had a chance to do this. They worked their whole life, and they worked very hard, and they retired, and now they have time and they have the money to do it. So it's a bucket list kind of thing to go out and do. Unfortunately, we've had a few people that come in, they're just a little bit too late in life, and so things like diabetes or something like that, asthma has kicked in, and so they're unable to go diving. And that's kind of sad.
So if you, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, what happens to your business when you say, I'm done?
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I really have
Honest
no
answer?
idea. Yeah, ask me tomorrow, and the answer may change.
Where do you see this industry as a whole heading?
I see. I do see some consolidation. I think that the shops that can't deliver a customer experience that goes a little bit above and beyond, or what people expect now from a true retail experience, you're going to start to see them close. Certainly, I remember the kind of bad old days of the dive shop, that you'd walk in and it was dusty, and there were three guys in the back, and they're all drinking coffee and laughing, and they all look at you like, "What are you doing here?" That those days are gone, and so you have to deliver something different, which means that people have to walk in and feel comfortable in a dive shop. And so there's going to be some consolidation. Well, I think a lot of the smaller shops aren't going to be able to survive with the expenses, the insurance expenses, all of the other expenses that go along with that. And we're going to continue to see more and more educated people walking in, and they're non-divers and divers as well. And I love that, because people come in pre-educated. It's a conversation. It's not just me talking to them constantly. I love that. I love the give and take. Somebody says, "Well, which SMB should I buy?" And I say, "Well, I think for your needs, this one right here would probably be really good for traveling." And they go, "But wait, I heard about this one. Oh yeah, that's cool. It's got this benefit and this benefit, but not that." And I think that's where the industry is really going. The other thing that's shifting on us relatively rapidly is equipment. Equipment for years and years and years was a slow evolution, but since I've been in the industry really hardcore for the last 10 years, I'm starting to see that curve come up, and the speed of equipment change happening faster, which is a little surprising. Not just in computers, but in other things as well.
I'm going to stop here and we'll pick up again.